The reason that I kind of want to watch a couple, like the sort of, lib perspective and the, conservative, like right wing perspective is because the libs seem to I think that a lot of them, at least the ones in power, wanted this war, but are disappointed with the outcomes of it and are kind of trying to goad Trump into into continuing it. Whereas the conservatives, I don't really know what they're doing right now with this. What up, Applejacks? How's it going this fine Friday morning? We're just watching some Iran news content right now. So anyway, I'm gonna watch this MS Now clip, and we'll see what the general lib perspective of the outcome of the ceasefire is.
For what could be crucial in-person peace talks with Iran over the weekend. But whether those talks even happen, like most everything else in this conflict, is very, very up in the air right now. Right now, only a handful of ships are passing through the Strait of Hormuz. Bloomberg is reporting that those few ships that are making it through have close ties to Iran. That sent the price of oil back up around $100 a barrel earlier today. And tonight, the president has been using his social media platform again to warn Iran about continuing to keep oil from moving through the strait. Opening the waterway was a key part of the ceasefire agreement, but right now it's hard to even say that any sort of ceasefire is in place.
Well, it seems like I do think Iran was allowing a couple ships through at the very beginning, but they did re-block it as soon as Israel violated the ceasefire. So I think that was the main problem. If they wanted the strait to remain open, they should have, forced Israel's hand.
Here's why. Israel is still attacking Lebanon, targeting Hezbollah. Iran says that Lebanon was included in that ceasefire deal, but clearly Israel did not agree to that. After pressure from the international community, including President Trump, Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu agreed to hold talks with Lebanon. But even after making that announcement, Israel kept launching attacks. And if you are curious how Iran sees things, well, today, the new Ayatollah posted on his social media declaring a clear victory. Meanwhile, here at home, where the focus has been on the Iran war for almost 6 weeks now, First Lady Melania Trump surprised everyone by breaking her silence about the Epstein.
Okay, I'm going to watch a different video about that. If this is what it's going into, I'm going to jump ahead to up here. We'll see if this is
your chief White House correspondent for the New York Times, Dave Weigel, political reporter for Semaphore, and Miles Taylor, former chief of staff for the Department of Homeland.
David, I'm not sure if we know for sure if they're charging money through the strait. I haven't seen any reporting. I think that right now it's kind of at a standstill, but yeah, I don't know if they're charging. I know that they still have the capability to, and I know that it was countries more closely aligned with Iran are potentially being allowed to pass through. But I thought it was kind of at a standstill at this point.
Homeland Security during the first Trump administration. He is also the founder of Defiance.org. Peter, let's start with the big picture.
True.
Is the single biggest result of this conflict that everyone now knows just how much leverage Iran has by controlling the Strait of Hormuz?
Yeah, I mean, it was just about 6 weeks ago that the Strait of Hormuz was open and everybody was getting their oil through there and there was no problem. So we're trying to solve a problem that only came up because of the war in the last 6 weeks, right? And it's become one that has managed to grip the world. It's not just oil, it's also things like fertilizer, which are necessary for crops. There are whole, acres and acres and acres of croplands that may be wasted this season if they can't get the right fertilizers. It's things like here in the Washington area, I saw the local water authority says they're taking down the fluoride in our water because they're not getting supplies from the Middle East. It has a lot of ripple effects across the board, economically and otherwise. And I think you're right. A lot of Americans didn't quite realize that. And it doesn't seem like the administration had really anticipated exactly what was going to happen there either.
Though I can't figure out why they didn't. It was completely obvious. If you do X, Y will happen. Miles, the new cover.
Yeah, they had been threatening that for decades at this point of like that they would do it. It was just Trump is a chronic gambler, and he was high off his own supply when it came to Venezuela. So whenever whenever he was doing this, I just think he did not expect them to actually go through with the threats that they had made. And then obviously we got that New York Times reporting as well of Netanyahu, giving a full court, offensive, trying to get Trump to do it. So and it seems like he kind of bought, I think that he kind of wanted to buy it, but he kind of bought their, the propaganda that they were pushing. So yeah, I think that he's just, I don't understand how they could have and everybody who was around him was also saying that like this isn't going to go how Netanyahu is saying it is or whatever too. So yeah, it's a bunch of clowns, dude.
The Economist is getting a lot of attention. I want to share the headline. Donald Trump is the war's biggest loser. The piece says he has gotten very little, if anything, from Tehran after now almost 6 weeks. What do you think?
Well, remember what he said earlier this week when he notionally agreed to a ceasefire. He said that Iran had presented a workable basis on which to negotiate. Now, we don't know for sure what that workable basis was, but the documents that we do have largely rest on a 10-point plan that the Iranians put out there, which a lot of people, including in President Trump's orbit, have deemed a total strategic failure. That whole list of things does not align with what Donald Trump demanded the Iranians do: give up their nuclear program and reopen the Strait of Hormuz and do it without conditions, and on down the list. Instead, it looks like the Iranians got their wish list. And now additional reporting today makes it seem like there was indeed a scramble in the White House in those last 24 hours before this deal was announced, with Donald Trump seemingly ready to accept anything so that he could just claim victory. But it's looking a lot worse. And I think that's why you've seen in the past 24 hours a lot of backpedaling from this administration, a change in tune, the president trying to create strategic ambiguity again on social media, because
this is kind of where I think that this this is why I kind of think this 2-week ceasefire thing is not going to turn into a full-fledged peace. Like Donald Trump loves to bomb people in the middle of negotiations, right? Like that's his favorite thing. He loves doing it. So like my guess is that this is going to appear too embarrassing. And also our foreign policy, like blob, like the establishment in our country, is probably going to see this as too much of a failure and like for American empire, and will potentially force him to go like back into, even if he didn't want to or something, might force him back into war. The problem though is that even if they do go back into it, I think the outcome is going to be the same regardless. I just don't think that they're going to be able to militarily accomplish things like opening the Strait of Hormuz or like beating Iran into submission. Like Iran has just demonstrated enough capabilities now of causing enough damage that I think that we would still end up blinking first, even in the future as well. But yeah, there's definitely a ton of money being made, especially with the crazy thing is the amount of munitions that we've been using and all that sort of stuff as well. Like we're going to eventually run up into the like straight up physical limits of what America's military is even capable of in terms of like production capabilities, right? So that's why I say, like, even if they do go back into it, I don't foresee the outcome being any different, even if it's in another couple months or whatever.
They're hearing from their own folks in their own orbit that this feels like it was a failure. And if there's any way to measure that, you can see that Donald Trump, not just the boosters that got him elected, but some of the loudest and most influential voices on MAGA social media are having trouble even posting supportive things about the administration today. Some of them are even debating, just before I logged on tonight, some were debating whether to post about politics at all for the next few days because it was futile to post about what this administration was doing. So they're having a really tough time, and clearly they're recalibrating going into these negotiations.
Well, everyday Americans, Dave, are facing $4 a gallon when it comes to gas. Diesel is almost at record.
Dude, so I had to drive like 2.5 hours yesterday to take my cat to like a specialty vet or whatever, and then 2.5 hours back. I had to fill up, and it was like $50 to fill up. I was like, man, dude, this sucks. I was hoping that like with the ceasefire that like there would have been a temporary relief, like where I just happened to need to fill up my tank at the exact same time that it like went down or something, but no, it's still pretty high. But yeah, yeah, I'm sure all of the people at the top are making tons of money, Applejacks.
Highs.
They always are. They always are.
What are the American voters saying? Because there is not a large voting contingent that called for a war with Iran.
No, very small. Every poll we've seen, no matter how the war has gone.
Oh, sorry. And also the thing that happens with inflation as well is that once the price goes up, it usually just stays up because of corporate consolidation and monopolization. Like they're not incentivized to bring the prices back down. So if there's too few people like in an industry, if they all just kind of agree not to bring the prices back down, then they'll probably do that as well. So there's that aspect.
It's in the 30s. It's most Republicans. It's a majority of everyone else who doesn't support the war. What has it done? It has made Trump responsible for the cost of living, which is something the White House was trying to avoid. It was like a lot of presidents this is an unusual second term he has, but taking over from a president who was fairly unpopular, you blame for as long as possible everything going wrong in people's lives on the previous president. They had more reasons. They could say the Green New Deal is the reason that this costs more money. Biden's out of control EPA was the reason this cost more money. The illegal immigration was the reason these products are costing. They had,
dude, Applejacks, 100. That you must live in like California or something because, like, I live in Missouri where my like at least our gas prices are relatively low compared to like the coast generally. But that, well, yeah, I would not. I would probably go bankrupt, especially with like I've been putting thousands of dollars trying to keep my cat alive lately. So yeah, I'm running a little low as well, man.
Multiplicity of reasons they could say are making your life cost more, and we're going to fix that. And now it's Iran. Everyone I talk to, voters I talk to, associate all with Iran. They associate Iran with Trump. Sorry to interrupt. Yeah.
No. Peter, Politico is reporting that the oil in
Ontario. I didn't know. I didn't know that they had bad gas prices too up there, man. I mean, obviously, I guess it's a global commodity, but I didn't know. I guess America at least has a lot of like reserves or whatever. But yeah, I'm sorry about that, man. It's rough.
Industry.
It's rough out there.
And this is an industry that has been very, very close to the president. They are now desperately pushing back against the president's peace plan because what it would mean for the street. It is starting to seem like no one except Trump thinks this possible resolution is any kind of win.
Yeah, and the real question is he willing to resume the war because it's looking so bad, or is he trying to find a face-saving way to get out, but to find something he can say amounts to a win, doesn't look, doesn't look like humiliation, doesn't look like it was for nothing. And there are things he can point to. Obviously, they have done enormous damage to the nuclear program. They've taken out at least some of the ballistic missiles. It doesn't sound like they've taken out as many as the president claims, obviously. They've set back Iran as a threat in the region. That's certainly the case, but it's not a case of a regime change. This is just simply a different Khamenei, right? As a younger, harder line, angrier.
That also feels a little cope to me because Iran is coming out of this much stronger, in my opinion, at least politically. Obviously, they suffered a lot, and their people suffered a lot. I'm very skeptical of how much damage we actually did to their ballistic missile program at all, because they keep all that stuff so deep underground that I still assume that they have like hundreds of thousands of drones and thousands of missiles that, maybe they took out some of their launchers or strike capabilities, but they can always, rebuild those pretty easily and stuff. And so I think that if anything, Iran is coming out of this like looking much better politically than they did when they started, which in the end, that's what war is supposed to be about, is achieving political outcomes through other means. So by all regards, I would say that at least at this point in time, they are, quote unquote, winning the war and winning the peace.
Khamenei now, who's in charge, and the IRGC still in charge, and they're going to obviously, be a threat to the region and to Americans as soon as they're able to recover and restore themselves, because they're not turning into a Western-style democracy friendly to America. So it's a real problem for Trump. I think he was happy to be able to call the war off.
Sorry, the reason I chuckle at that is because I thought we kind of got rid of this whole notion of we're going to invade you to make you into a liberal democracy, since Iraq failed and Afghanistan failed and all of the times that we've done it before failed. I kind of thought we were done with that sort of rhetoric, but apparently this guy's still living in 2005 or whatever.
All the reasons you've talked about, all the domestic consequences that are piling up here. But on the other hand, if it looks like a defeat, does that put pressure on him to resume it at some point down the road when this 2-week pause, I suppose, is supposedly over?